Hello everyone, welcome back to our weekly market analysis video with me, Frankie, your market analyst at Markets4U. In today's video, we'll be looking at the key economic events and data releases from August 25th to August 29th, 2025. I've already set up my screen to display the economic calendar from the traders room at Markets4U. I've set the dates from August 25th to August 29th, covering this week's important events in GMT. Please remember to adjust to your respective time zones. Let's dive into this week's events. Monday starts with US new home sales data and Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index figures. Tuesday brings RBA meeting minutes from Australia, followed by US durable goods orders, Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index, and CB consumer confidence data. Wednesday features Australian monthly CPI indicator data. Thursday includes Swiss GDP figures, the second estimate of US GDP growth rate with initial jobless claims, Japanese unemployment rate, and retail sales and industrial production data. Friday concludes with Japanese consumer confidence data, US core PCE price index, the Fed's preferred inflation measure, personal income and spending figures, Canadian GDP data, and US Chicago PMI. This week's key market-moving events will be the US GDP second estimate on Thursday and the core PCE price index on Friday. Canadian GDP figures on Friday will also be important for the Canadian dollar. Now, let's go to the technical analysis. This week, we'll focus on the US dollar against the Canadian dollar and the Australian dollar against the US dollar, as both instruments face significant data releases from their respective central banks and economies. Let's start with the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. Looking at the daily chart, the dollar-Canadian dollar pair is currently trading around 1.3824, showing signs of recovery after testing lower levels. The pair faces important Canadian GDP data on Friday, which could provide significant direction for the Canadian dollar. Looking at important levels, the US dollar against the Canadian dollar has support at 1.3732 and 1.3644, while resistance can be found at 1.3921 and 1.4017. The price is moving above the 20-day moving average, which is acting as dynamic support. The stochastic oscillator is moving inside the overbought area with a potential of moving lower, suggesting the pair may be due for a pullback despite the recent bullish momentum. The 1.3921 resistance level will be particularly important to watch during Friday's Canadian GDP release, as weak economic data could drive the pair higher toward the next resistance at 1.4017. Now, let's turn to the Australian dollar against the US dollar. On the daily chart, the Australian dollar is currently trading around 0.6491, facing several data releases this week including RBA meeting minutes on Tuesday and monthly CPI data on Wednesday. Looking at key levels, the Australian dollar against the US dollar has support at 0.6418 and 0.6359, while resistance stands at 0.6569 and 0.6625. The price is moving back to reach the 20-day moving average, suggesting a potential recovery attempt. The stochastic oscillator is moving inside the oversold area with a potential of moving higher, indicating the pair may be due for a bounce from current levels. Wednesday's Australian CPI data will be closely watched, as it could provide clues about the Reserve Bank of Australia's future monetary policy direction. The 0.6418 support level will be crucial to watch, as a break below could accelerate the downside movement towards 0.6359. Both instruments could see considerable volatility this week. Traders should be particularly cautious during Friday's US PCE data and Canadian GDP figures, as these events can cause sudden spikes in volatility and potential gap risks. Remember, always manage your risk carefully and never invest more than you can afford to lose. That's it for this week's analysis. See you in the next video.